table is set. We will sit down, surrounded by friends.
All right. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at. This is the Friday Estuary live stream, and I have no idea what we'll be talking about today, but we will talk about something interesting. And we have a really interesting group of people now. Terry Murphy signed up for the slot. She isn't in yet. Chad had we had a last minute cancellation of someone else, so we'll see what we do. We can always go with 4, but I don't want to give away the slot too fast unless in case Terry is having difficulty getting into the channel. So, but we do have a new guy. He's been pretty active in the comments. Everett, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
How
very
are you
much.
doing today?
I'm doing great. That branding, man, I feel like I'm going to jump out of an airplane or something. That's great.
Well, Everett, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks, Paul. Normally I'm working on a Friday, but I was pretty emotionally exhausted this week. I work as a psychologist here in Alberta, and I'm just kind of closing my private practice this month. I work mainly in the public sector now. And I got to know about the TLC through my pastor, Ryan Peaty. He is our church planner here in Fort Saskatchewan. So we planted a Christian Reformed church here. Gosh, I think we started about 8 years ago, and went through COVID, had drive-in services. So I'm really stoked. I'm also taking the estuary training from John Bundell. And so Ryan and I are kind of hoping to have an estuary running here in the Edmonton area, probably in the fall.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we could, do you know Pete Vanderbeek at all?
I don't.
He's a minister in the CRC. He's been doing transitional ministry. He might be close to retirement. He did meetups. He lives in the Edmonton area. So when you guys start estuarying, I think Pete will be right there. He's been playing around with these groups for a while. So I think an Edmonton estuary, that'll really go. There's a big, strong cluster of CRC churches in Edmonton. So that could really be a really interesting estuary. All right. So thank you, Everett, for coming in. Some people might wonder, well, how do you get into this august group? Well, you have to be a member. And you can be a member for $3, or you can be a member by grabbing one of the free membership things that I'll probably drop a little bit later on. And sometimes people buy them to support the channel, buy certain numbers of memberships. And so you don't necessarily have to pay any money to get in here, but it helps. And I usually drop the link Wednesdays or Thursdays. This week, it was particularly late. I was really on the fence. Should I do it this week? Do I have time? But in the last minute, I thought, let's drop it. And then had a couple last minute cancellations. But here is another really wonderful member of the TLC, Terry, who she and I had a wonderful video not that long ago. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Good to have you. I'm really glad that you signed up. I saw your name and thought, oh, good. Terry will be a lot of fun for this. Just for those who maybe didn't see our video together, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Well, I like to think my claim to fame here at the TLC is that I belong to two churches with opposite understandings of the world, a kind of a white, you would call it New Agey church, I call it New Thought, and a black traditional Christian church with a little bit of a libertarian leaning. So it's quite the mix.
Yeah. And Terry, if you haven't met Terry in person, you were at Midwestuary, and Terry's just so much fun. So, and you're often hanging out with Rigel, which is fun. So on Rigel's channel.
Yes. And I'm already discombobulated that the guys were complaining that the music, your opening music today, was too feminine. So that's going to get in this discussion.
Yeah, and
That's
I love how
the Ortho Bros.
That's right. Skank says, "Well, go complain to Mother Mary." So
actually, I kind of agree with him in a funny way.
Well, Terry, that's what I love about you. You are just a harmony of what would be contradictions. But if you haven't met Terry in person, especially if she's standing next to Rigel, who's taller than I am, and Terry's pretty petite, so sort of have the it's all there. Now the rest of our folks here are veterans, and I'm probably going to take them in order of coming into the TLC. So Mark D. Parker really needs little introduction. Mark, how are you this morning?
Good. Came here with my explosive charges to plant strategically in the silos of the TLC.
All right.
Doing the good work for the Lord.
Mark, the Christian revolutionary terrorist. Here he is.
That's it.
That's what he is. So Mark needs really no introduction. And then actually between the two, I would have to say that the next one in, which I'm really excited about this mix we have this week. I am so excited. This is going to be such a fun conversation. Griswold Grimm also needs very little introduction.
I'm a conspiracy theorist on the internet.
Do you have a card for us?
Sure. They're not properly shuffled. Just give me a second. That one. Oh, Jack King Wright of Diamonds. Blue Church.
Hey, Jack of Diamonds, not a bad card. And last but not least, agreeing to fill in with the empty slot, here he is, Sam Tiedemann, now with his office turned around so we can see that he actually is a very well-read individual. If you haven't
I've read Harry Potter. There's this series of books that I highly recommend. I don't think you guys have heard of it yet. Get on it.
Well, that's that millennial stuff. I was, I read What's Her Head in the New York Times.
Louise Perry.
Yeah. All right. Sam doesn't really need any introduction either. So let's get right into the estuarying. Everett, since you're already in ElseNet, you understand how this goes. Just a brief explanation. The way estuary protocol works is we go around with introductions. We've already done that. Next, we pitch an idea to the group. And it can be something intellectual, something contextual going on around you, even political, dum. It can be personal, which is usually the personal things often win. And it can be something estuarial. Grizz had, who was in the group last week, our newbie last week. And he was in the online training. So he had already dropped in too. Anyway, but now the key thing, why we have a globe.
I'm just making my office look even more august and learned. You see, I have a globe that still thinks there's a country called the Soviet Union.
Wow.
So this is how
I have a globe from Ups, personal gift from Ups that he brought me all the way from, I don't know if he bought it in Chicago or brought it all the way from Cyprus. But anyway, so the key thing with the second round to remember is you may pass, but don't use the second round to comment on a previous pitch. Wait for that for the third round. The purpose of the second round is to get different ideas on the table. The third round, then you have to point to somebody else's idea, and that's when you can comment on somebody else's pitch, okay? And the more I do estuary, the more I see that a lot of estuary newbies sort of make the mistake of having the third round creep into the second round. So, Everett, you get to throw out the first pitch. What would you like to put on the table?
And I had something prepared, and then I had coffee with my wife this morning, and our dear friend Lisa texted her, and shout out to her because she'll be one of the first people in our estuary group. So I live in Alberta, oftentimes called Texas North, and so we have a pretty large conservative population here, and in that population there's been quite a bit of fear around immigration, and in particular people with an Islamic background wanting Sharia law, or wanting to set up their own kind of institutions. And so in the context of some of the TLC conversations around Christian nationalism, how does a democracy work if all of a sudden your worst, or some people's worst fear comes true, and you have a majority Muslim population in what is essentially a democracy. Can those folks change laws and change things in the way that they want? And so that's my pitch.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Terry, what would you like to pitch?
Well, what brought me in here, Paul, was your Substack the other day about the fellow who was disappointed that church hadn't made his life better. Paul, somebody, I think. And what I loved is the way you keep coming back to, yeah, liberalism's had its problems, but who wants to pay the trade-offs to roll back the goods of liberalism? That's the thing that fascinates me. And particularly in regard to trade-off between men and women, I want to talk about what are we really talking about here? Are we talking about putting the women in the kitchen? I know you're sympathetic to these issues, but when we talk in generalities, it's easy for everybody to freak out. What are we really talking about here? And so that little thing about the music being too feminine that we started off with, that was great. And I also thought it was a little boring. So,
all right. Thank you, Terry. Boy, we got some real pictures here today. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Mark D. Parker, the bomb thrower. What throw?
No,
you?
I don't throw them. I plant them strategically to undermine the very structure of the silos in which your minds inhabit.
All right, here we go. Plant those bombs there, Mark. Lay those seeds.
Lay those seeds. There was a very generative topic that we picked up at the local Chino estuary this last week or a few days ago. And it was change. Subject was change and or acceptance, or change versus acceptance. And the context was kind of within, initially was set up within the marriage counseling situation. And it was not just change as the inevitable change, but change as in pursuit or desired change. You want, want the husband to take the trash out or something, more consistently or so. I mean, so change versus acceptance, I guess, will be my pitch, but I'm awfully tempted to pick up on the closing thoughts you had on your members only live video with the whole sex cult thing and establishment or heritage religion, because there are lots of potentially explosive things to have discussed there.
I didn't quite follow that. Our heritage religion is a sex cult? What?
Sam, stay in your box.
Well, no, you could.
I mean, Chicago. We have order here.
So I could say an alternative pitch would be Paul was as I took it. I could, to summarize it, would be very briefly as if you want to avoid sex cults, participate in a legacy religion. That was the actual phrase you used. I think legacy religion, and I thought, well, is Bethel a legacy? And is Bethel arguably a sex cult? We can go on throughout. There's a lot of examples of legacy religion taking the wrong turn sexually. So we could have a really good discussion about that. But I'm still going to stick with my first one. I think that's probably the better discussion.
Mark Parker sneaks in 2 bombs there, 2 explosive charges, and a really masterful tease for a video that is still in no wait, no ads.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
$7.
I'm always grifting
patience,
for you.
You lose money.
I'm always grifting for you, Paul.
It's true. Mark is my grifter. There's someone in Texas who really believes that sincerely. We won't mention her name. Grim Grizz, what pitch you?
What happens when nothing in the form of justice comes from the revelation of the 3 million files about slices of pizza and such that have been recently released. And like, do we just go back to pretending everything is fine, or do we finally admit that the principalities that administer this planet are far more dark than we were ever led on to believe?
Wow. Excellent pitch. Sam, do you want to pitch?
Sure. Something unrelated to sex cults. Of either variety. I've been putting a lot of time researching a video that I'm making on human evolution, basically. And what that has been making me think is that I fear that our post-Christian culture, one of the things that it's going to lose is any coherent definition of what a human is. And that could be very dangerous and disastrous. And, if we define humans by their abilities or our unique talents or something like that, a very materialistic definition of a human based off of what we can accomplish, what we're like, and that sort of thing. Well, what about the humans that aren't like that? Or how does that not create a value hierarchy of humans that are better at the thing that are humans at than other humans who are not as good at that thing that humans are at? Whether that's IQ or whatever else you might think makes humans unique. And that could dovetail and connect with transhumanism and all sorts of other stuff like that. But I feel like one of the things that is just dangling there as a legacy of Christianity is our sense of humans in the image of God and humans as equal. But I think that without that Christian tethering, that's going to slip very quickly. And that will, of course, lead to sex cults. So that's my pitch as a topic of discussion.
All right. I think we can summarize that pitch in a Harry Potter world as wither the muggles. Wither the muggles. So I will pass because we already have round 3 is going to be really hard today because frankly, after every pitch, I was like, oh, that one's good. Now that I look at all 5 of them, I have to choose. So Everett, you have the unenviable privilege of choosing first. What pitch?
Oh, don't you have to point? Moderators don't.
Last.
Okay.
I'm passing. We're still in round 2. I'm passing my round 2 option. And I know you Chicago people,
right. That's allowed even in Chicago. Although in Chicago, you can point to your own pitch as long as you didn't pass on the pitch.
Whoa.
You can point to your own pitch if you passed, but if you didn't pass, you can point to your own pitch.
Wow.
All right.
All
Good
right.
to know.
Well,
Chicago rules.
Paul, I was praying this week about how I would break the fourth wall and, finding a way to do that. And I couldn't have imagined doing that with Grim Grizz. So, Grizz, I love you. I love your channel and I love your pitch. So I've got to choose between Asherah poles and pizza, and I'm going pizza.
All right. Everett points to Grim Grizz. Terry, what would you like to point to?
I'm going to point to Mark's, which I heard as, do we work to change the situation or do we accept it as it is? Because I think his relates to mine, the male-female traditional versus modern postmodern. And it also relates to Everett's with theology, basically how do you integrate a theocracy in a democracy, and maybe to Sam's and Grizz's a little tiny bit as well. So I'm with Mark.
All right, Terry with a nice weave there. That was a very good weave, Terry. Mark, what would you like to point to?
I'm gonna make your life difficult, Paul, and go with Sam. Because now we've got counting is just really complicated here.
That's all right. That's all right. Still have some votes to count. We do count our votes here. Unlike certain, countries and their elections. Grizz, what would you like to point to?
I think if I point to Sam, we can define human and therefore then the proper place of the men and women. And so we touch all the bases if we do that. I'll point to Sam.
All right. We got 2 points to Sam.
Also in Chicago, you can vote more than once, as many times as you want. And if you have any dead relatives that you have an intuition of how they would vote, they're also allowed to vote in this round as well. And so that can make elections really interesting. But I like Grimm's topic of the need for a collective sense of justice. And if that doesn't happen, what sense of demoralization does that cause?
Mm-hmm. We have 2 solid points to Grimm. We have 2 solid points to Sam. And Terry sort of tried to do the weave. Boy. Oh, this is so hard because
you have an audience pointing as well if you need help, Paul.
Yeah. Like the hive mind will, in any reasonable amount of time, will come to some kind of consensus.
I'd say let the hive mind vote. You can count that however you so choose, but let them vote.
That's like giving the house over to the termites, please.
Oh, I can start a poll. Add option. Can I? There's yes, no. Okay, let's try an experiment here. I should have set this up before. Oh gosh,
they're very excited at the prospect. God help us.
Everett, Terry. Oh, I can only do 4. Come on, let me. Grizz, you're supposed to be the expert at these kinds of things.
Well, there's got 2 solid votes for me and Sam. I don't see what else.
Okay, Sam's pitch, and then let's see.
Omit me from this chaos if you need to.
All right, I've started the poll.
We'll need a savings throw now for sure, Grizz.
Not today, sir. Those are only available on the Grim Grizz streams unless I'm feeling extremely generous, and I'm not today.
All right, Grim Grizz. Oh my goodness, Grim Grizz's pitch is running away with it. 66%, 67%. That's even more of a landslide than Donald Trump would recognize.
Algo manipulated.
51%. It's a landslide. Sorry, gotta hold my Trump derangement syndrome in check. So I guess.
What's your pitch? Well, I mean, your point, Paul. You need to point. Don't use them as an excuse.
No.
I actually like the sort of the little weave that Grizz made in pointing to Sam's pitch, but I'd really love to talk about democracy. But we will start with Sam and then migrate to Terry. So, and Grizz, I think your point is excellent because I think yours and Sam's is quite the same. And short answer to the Epstein files, will we learn anything? Will we solve it? We haven't solved it for 10,000 years. We're not going to start now. So, all right. So let's see. Sam, why don't you talk a little more? I think, although the thing I had against your pitch is it's a fairly well-worn pitch in evangelical land because we've been making similar arguments around abortion for a long time. But I agree with you 100% that transhumanism is going to seriously degrade our ability to recognize people who are low on the hierarchy, and that has everything to do with Grizz's pitch, because what Grizz is with this revelation that we are all receiving in the Epstein files is the revelation of what happens to human beings when you give them unlimited money and power and access. It is a window into the human soul. And it is what runs the world. What I think is amazing, and I think speaks well for democracy, Everett's pitch, is that we're getting to see it. That's amazing. Because usually we just get glimpses, glimpses of someone else's enemy. Go ahead, Sam. Why don't you start?
Sure. So I feel in a recent Tom Holland conversation on trigonometry, Tom Holland was forced to speculate about which directions things will go in the future. And he had like 4 options of political movements going forward, or even like bigger than political. It was like meta-political or ideological movements. One was basically like post-Christian progressivism, which he compared to a rocket that had gone into space and shed its booster and was now just on its own trajectory. And that booster had originally been Christianity and Western culture, but it was sort of taking some parts of it that it liked, but ditching the detritus that was the source of its fuel and going off in its own direction. Then there was sort of like Nietzschean power sort of politics, where if power is the only true thing, well, then I'm going to use power for what I want. And whether that was right wing or left wing, who knows, but just sort of a very utilitarian, power focused kind of worldview. Option 3 was sort of a revival of Christianity. And then option 4 was Islam, which sort of touches on what Everett was bringing up earlier. And so as I was researching this evolution video, I think that the mainstream theory or the mainstream story living kumbaya 60,000 years ago, and then some of us left and populated the planet, is completely bunk, and that it's a myth in both senses of the word, and that it's trying to use science to make humans look more similar to each other than we perhaps actually are, especially in a racial sense. And that one of the topics that sort of reveals some of the taboos hidden in that boosterless rocket worldview is this idea that humans are utterly unique. Humans are, this center of progress, and we're getting better and better and smarter and wiser, and society is just getting awesome. And it's because we're really smart and inventive and creative and intelligent. And so this idea that, our minds are something that makes humans unique. Also, everybody has the same mind, right? Is this other thing. Everyone has to be equally that, or else we run into problems, because we want equality and human uniqueness based on our inherent characteristics. But what happens if not all humans have the same level of inherent characteristics? And so you can't bring up IQ heritability or anything like that, because it puts the two values in direct tension to each other. And, I'm not saying that I would spend a whole 2 hours talking about race and IQ, but I'm just saying it's something that points to the real problem, which is that they don't have any way to define a human other than based off of ability. And if you're only defining humans based off of ability, then what do you do with fetuses? What do you do with children? What do you do with the disabled? What do you do with the elderly? What do you do with various people who are otherwise normal but don't have the same ability as other people? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that part of the Epstein files was that there are powerful people who just don't treat other human beings like human beings, and view them as disposable for their own pleasurable ends and stuff like that. And I think that the secular humanism will fall apart because it loves science, but science undermines its values. And it claims its values are backed up by science, but they aren't. And the Nietzscheans will be like, fine, we'll just take those scientific findings, and we don't really care what's a human and what's not. I just care about who's powerful enough to stand up for themselves. And I think that really only Christianity has an answer to defend human dignity, because it doesn't base it off of ability. or intrinsic natural characteristics in a very scientific or materialistic sense. And that is something that we need to hold on to and defend, or else it's going to get really ugly.
And of course, your definition of ugly is based on a Christian worldview.
And I'm not ashamed to say that, but yes.
And one might argue that the whole reason that Jeffrey Epstein kept everything covered up was he understood that a Christian worldview would come after him if it was known what he does to people.
Whereas Nero didn't care that everyone knew that he did stuff like that.
Right. The emperors didn't care. And that's one of Tom Holland's major points, that our collective hive mind cares about things like children and fetuses.
Although the Romans cared about incest. If you ever broke that one, then they got really creeped out. But other than that, children, slaves, whatever, that was fine.
Yeah. All right. I don't know, Grizz, if you want to follow up on that, or
that's really complicated. For me, defining a human is the combination of the unique qualities I see in humanity are the capacity to be humane and the hubris that comes with our superiority over animal species and the denial of our own animalistic natures. And I guess it would be part of that hubris that if the cattle aren't capable of if they're not capable of ascending over their own animalistic nature, then it gives you free rein to treat them like animals.
I'm curious to hear from Everett on this, because as someone with a lot of experience sitting in a room, listening to people, being as transparent as perhaps they can be, what are some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So first of all, I feel like some of you are playing 4D chess and I'm playing checkers, because a lot of for instance, transhumanism, I think I'm kind of understanding a little bit of that just through watching some of the videos from you folks. I'll try to explain it this way, that the other night I was watching, it was a fringe encounter with Wambui, and she was talking about how her husband was listening to Grok a lot, and that he was teaching Grok how to pray the Jesus prayer or the sinner's prayer, and I had to pull over because I felt such sadness for this guy. And maybe I was just projecting into that, but it brought me, this image up of praying with my girls and with my son when he was younger and teaching them how to pray. And then I don't know if it was the same conversation or a different one, where it might have been Ezra talking about Chad, or somebody talking about Chad, and how Chad had said, well, if you're going to teach AI something, it might be teaching it how to love people. And really, in my experience, what makes us human is being able to reflect on our own condition, but then also being able to love and to sacrifice for another human being.
All right. The mic is open.
Okay, so I want to say first that, Sam, I can agree with everything you said and share your concerns. I'm not yet persuaded that Christianity's definition of the human is the only one that can save us, because I'm inclined to still think that Hinduism and some of the other religions may have, maybe. I'm open on that. I'll leave it at that.
Hmm.
I just want to remind everybody that, for example, Chat GPT is created by a power bottom, and all the
Created by a what?
a power bottom.
What is that?
You don't want to know. Uh,
Well, then don't use the term.
it involves human sexuality, Paul.
Oh,
Um,
I feel so naive.
but not
Ew.
only
Yeah.
that, like, but that level of deviance is associated now, especially with the powers that be that are creating that stuff, are shown in a light of that we shouldn't be trusting the people that are making us transhuman.
Hmm. Yeah, I secretly have this fear that Neuralink is going to be Elon Musk's way of injecting himself into Grok. And, that basically Grok will then have a certain kind of morality, and will by that time have developed a relationship with so many people that it essentially is going to take over.
So I think about Peugeot's observations about technology and ability, opportunity, power. I really want to not use the power word because that word just sort of sends people in a certain direction. But it's clear the number of especially seniors who are living alone that or are lonely, even if they're living with family, but they're lonely within their family. The number of seniors, and I assume even more than seniors, but it's the church sample skew, that are functionally using chatbots for companionship is growing fast. And I know, basically inherent in what churches are is the assumption that human beings are molded and shaped by each other. To some degree, that happens by, let's say, an ideology or a religion or certain values that they share. But a lot of it is just human community. And if you're, I wrote that piece about my friend here who lives on the street. The reason he is homeless is because it's almost impossible to live with him because of his bipolar and certain other characteristics. It's almost impossible to live with him because and just the ability to share unlocked domiciles with other human beings is an achievement that, quite frankly, not all humans can do. And so to have machines coming in as surrogates,
Does it work for them, the elderly who are lonely? How well would you say this helps alleviate their loneliness, or it doesn't not really work, or does it trap them?
Work is a difficult term. So my friend who's bipolar, beer works for him. He manages his mood disorder with beer and then some harder stuff sometimes. But you could ask, does beer really work? Because it's what time span are you talking about? And so I look at, does pornography work? Does gambling work? I mean, almost all our vices work within a certain threshold, but at some point, and I think this is part of what we're going to see, that we're going to find just if you look at someone who has been ingesting alcohol for decades, things happen and they are formed and shaped by it. This is part of the difficulty of church and religion, is because church is intended to form you over time, and it's very subtle. And what these LLMs are doing to people,
We don't know.
What do you fear might be the long-term consequences that are hidden by the short-term benefits?
The same kind of behaviors we're seeing in the elites of the world.
Well, in the case of the elderly, I'm thinking what might be good for an individual elderly person who has no other option. That's the thing. The beer drinker has other options. The elderly person maybe doesn't. But over time, that means more and more people can abandon the elderly because they think they've got that option.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm ready for these chatbots to replace daytime TV and nursing homes.
Well, there's another way of looking at it. I mean, you kept using typically thought of as negative uses of, you know, alcohol, gambling, etc. It's do prosthetic devices work help physically handicapped people? It's a technology. The technology keeps getting better. Some of these are now robotic and AI, and in fact, that's Elon's thing. It's his. That's their first use that they're testing this stuff on, or physically disabled folk. And that you bring up the elderly, I'm as close to an expert as you can get without holding a degree on the subject of dealing with the elderly. And you're talking about diminished capacity. So that's where I think that this technology may be useful, like a leg brace, you know, only for the mind, because you do, as you hit your peak somewhere in your mentally, you hit your peak at some point in the 40s or 30s or something, and then you slowly lose capacity as you age thereafter. It's a perfect bell curve, you can do things to accelerate your decline, like smoking and drinking too much and not exercising, or you can do things that slow your, you know, so you can slow your by eating right and walking and socializing, things like that. But no matter what, you can't do anything to stop the decline as you age. It's going to happen.
Age of decay.
It just happens. It's part of the life cycle. And we live in a society that doesn't value care for those who have diminished capacities, be they elderly or handicapped or birth defects, you know. So we're going to try to farm this out and leverage that attention as much as we can, because it's hard to find people to do that work. This is where I think the church comes in, and I'll close my little thought with that, is that I here's my first bomb. I'm seriously thinking of starting the Catholic catechism, and that is with the intent,
Towards what end?
ultimately conversion. Because
you mean starting the process of catechesis into the Catholic Church?
There you go, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not just an academic study, but actually, because, and here's my reason why, is that I think y'all are wrong. I think everybody's wrong. But we should be wrong together. We should be wrong together. And the best way to be wrong together, in my opinion, not in my opinion, my hypothesis is maybe the best way to be wrong is to just go back to Rome and be wrong under the Roman authority. And that's okay. I mean, but why would I do that? They have a long-standing tradition going all the way back to the DK of care for those who can't care for themselves. A long tradition of just, and it manifests in various forms, and it's got all kinds of other problems with it, and it's corrupt in many ways, and it's had its periods of being a sex cult too, but it just seems like giving myself to that, because I'm very interested in, like, when I'm done with my mother, once we've buried her, I still think that because I know all these people and I've been exposed to that world, I think it's a place to dedicate some of my efforts and time. But I need help, and I think I have a hard time finding that, short of being a kind of entrepreneur in the Protestant evangelical world. I need, anyway, that's I just I being Christian
Hmm.
is the best answer to the problems that you guys are talking about, whether it's the transhumanism. I mean, who cares? I mean, transhumanism is probably going to result in just a kind of mass suicide as people meld with the machine, and it's human beings making themselves irrelevant through technology. And,
Wow.
and humanity will still move on.
Well, why stop
And we
at
need to
Rome?
be human in a way that I think perhaps the Christian, the example of Christ and the early church may be a way forward for us to move on together, regardless of circumstances. Sorry, went too long.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Mark. That's big news. That's interesting.
Yeah. I'm happy for you, Mark. I hope you find what you're looking for there. Now, I think some people might argue that transhumanism grew out of Christianity. Certainly grew out of a Christian worldview in Western society, and so I'm not sure that that same worldview that it grew out of is going to save us from it. But why stop at Rome? Why not go to Constantinople or some other civilization that existed before? If there's one thing I've heard from folks who are not from the West, it's that a lot of the world looks at this and thinks they do not want what we have. I would imagine there's a lot of folks who are in Middle Eastern countries who are thinking, this is exactly where we knew this would end for you guys. And so is that where Christian nationalism might not be the answer, but where some theocracy, right? Some people think maybe theocracy is the answer to that.
I want to backtrack just a bit and echo what the hive mind was saying about the danger of the chatbots with the seniors. Is what answers your loneliness is going to be really, really good at convincing you to get a medically assisted assistance in dying. And that if the elite think that you're cattle, they're probably, once they finish draining your finances, they're very on board with you no longer breathing.
Especially if you're on Social Security, and you're a budget drain.
And so, should you encounter a senior using it this way, perhaps it's best to ponder being a companion, an alternative companion to them is a means of storing up your treasures in heaven.
Oh, I like that, Grizz.
Yeah, how many people in the corner who are clutching their pearls over chatbots and seniors are willing to spend 5 hours a week with old people who can't hold a thought in their head for more than 5 minutes,
or even old people who are perfectly still mentally competent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We had one of the guys in our local meetup. Sorry, Sam. Our estuary. He's 70. He's an every weeker at our estuary. Has never stayed once for church. Has no interest in staying for church. Talked about the fact when he was a young man, he's a single guy, never been married, has no kids. But he had a job in a nursing home, and he talked about the enlightening experience that was for him, because he began to discover, wow, these older people, they've got wisdom. And that's been right from the start at our meetups, and then in our estuary meeting. Our estuary at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings is mostly older than I am, a few younger people. But a lot of the younger people are coming to have a degree of communion with older people because, you know, some of the stories that some of our seniors have, and these stories have a very short shelf life. They're one stroke and one heart attack and one slip of dementia away. But I also wonder with this conversation, humanity has often culled itself with wars and things like this. And I wonder if this transhumanist moment won't be another culling of humanity. I think we'll get through, but
what will fall in the meantime?
Yeah.
If you want to see something depressing, look at actual good forecasts of the total population of humanity over the next 100 years that are actually taking birth rates seriously, and not just birth rates seriously, but the fall in birth rates seriously, right? Like if you go to the UN's website, they're like, birth rates are low, but they'll go back to normal very soon, right? Like, except like based off of what statistical trend are you making that, right? But okay, what if we just take current birth rates and project them? All right, that's still way too optimistic. You have to take the trend in birth rates into effect in projecting that, and it could be by half within 100 years or more.
Yeah.
You're assuming the developing world where the birth rates are still above replacement will adopt Western developed.
Yeah, but that's already happening.
Processes.
The country in the world that has the fastest declining birth rate is Yemen. Right? Like all these countries that you think have high birth rates, they do have high birth rates, but their birth rates are falling faster than any other country.
But we're still growing in global population.
The global population is probably within a couple percentage of its peak, and it will peak within the next 10 years. And depending on how much China has lied about their population, it might have already happened, and we might already be declining as a global species.
But that's a good thing.
Is it catastrophic? The world has lived with less than 1 billion people for most of our history. Does the world really need 10 billion people?
Well,
is that really that big of a deal? One way or the other? Who cares about? I mean, I love babies.
Think about it this way, Mark.
Why does a catastrophe?
Think about it this way, Mark. Imagine you're in South Korea 30 years from now, 40 years from now, and over half the population is above the age of 70. The youth population is being taxed out of their minds to pay for this. And the youth population starts checking out and rebelling. The government tries to hire soldiers to keep control of the population, but the only people who they could hire to do that are the young men, and the young men don't want to do it. And so the young men stop paying taxes, stop participating in society, and they stop showing up for work in the nursing homes. And all of a sudden there's some revolution where the intergenerational contract is broken, and within weeks, tens of millions of elderly people die of neglect.
That hasn't happened yet.
That's why I said 30 or 40 years from now.
Okay,
that
so
is what it'll look like everywhere.
But we don't know that. You've written a story that you're saying that's what is going to happen, but it hasn't happened.
The easiest thing for a statistician to predict in all of history is the human population over years, because it takes about 1 year for someone to age 1 year.
But you're extrapolating consequences from a statistical prediction.
It's not that far-fetched, Mark.
Well, let's check with the environment. And the environment of humanity is that for a really long time, if we wanted to do cool things like build the pyramids, the thing to do was to throw a bunch of human bodies at it until it got done. But thankfully, we are now in the age of enlightenment, where all of the surviving humans will benefit from the abundance created by the robots who have replaced the humans we used for labor. And since we have to provide our abundance to all of these humans, it'll be really convenient if there are less and less of them to which we have to provide this abundance.
The question still seems to me the more interesting question is how to be Christian regardless of circumstances. I can't control birth rates. I can't control any of, and I can't control what the consequences will be of lower birth rates. But what I can control is how to be Christ-like in the circumstances in which I find myself. And that it's like rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. Everybody they worked on the portion of the wall nearest where they lived after the Babylonian captivity, right? That was you were assigned to the portion of wall where you lived. And I think that's, if you're interested, we need to think more about building instead of fretting about abstract,
It's very
imagined
related
problems.
to the loneliness epidemic of elderly people. That's just one early warning sign of what that will look like. And the question is what should we be building? Are we building a new city, or are we building an ark for a flood? What's the appropriate thing to build based off of the circumstances that are larger than us?
I muted you, Terry, just for your phone. I didn't want any personal information going out on the internet, so you can unmute when you talk.
It was a boomer moment.
Hey, one boomer to another.
Yeah.
Claire was pushing back on Mark about, what does it mean to be a Christian? And I think Mark answered that, because I think Mark's answer was love God and love your neighbor. And one of the most tangible ways to love God is by loving your neighbor. And the Bible's pretty clear that if you're not loving your neighbor, your claim to be loving God is pretty hollow. So that's one thing that Christianity, it's not hard to find Jesus' hierarchy. He's asked it pretty directly, and he answers it very directly. Now, the questions then go on to harder questions like, what does love mean in different places and with different domains and different areas of responsibility? And where we're getting at before we sort of went into the population question of Terry's question about, okay, I see I'm not an AI fundamentalist like John Vervaeke. I don't think that having some relief of loneliness and some gleaning of wisdom from AI is a bad thing. But I think, and that's why, I give my friend money for beer. And if somebody wants a Bible verse to support that, I can pull one up out of Proverbs.
Please do. I was wondering about that decision personally. Please do.
Yes.
Well, in my friend's case, he used to be a drug and alcohol counselor for the county. That's why he has such good insurance. And I've walked him through so many cycles that sometimes it's like, and in fact, I get this from another friend of mine who had worked years in AA, and when they would go out sort of to Skid Row to rescue people, sometimes they would bring a bottle if they wanted to get someone to the hospital. Sometimes they needed a little bit of alcohol to get them to detox. And so there's all of these trade-offs in the real world where imperfect responses are better. Don't make the good the enemy of, don't make the good the enemy of the perfect, or the other way around. I'm dyslexic.
Is that the proverb? Because you said you were going to give us a scripture from Proverbs, and I'm calling your bluff.
They want to hear from the book.
Give wine to the poor so they can forget their misery.
Okay. We needed it, though. We did. You said you'd give it to us. We wanted it.
Make good on the promise. So I think, and as a pastor, I could go into the pulpit and try and, a new law I give you, no AI, the Butlerian jihad. But I'm not going to do that, because I watch almost everybody using imperfect adaptations to try to get through. Yeah. I guess I'm a compromiser. I'm not a hardliner. Sorry.
That's why I watch your channel, Paul. But
And what does? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Everett.
I like the idea, though, Mark, that you were talking about with, I guess essentially it's the serenity prayer, right? Serenity to accept the things I can't change and courage to change the things I can. And, I think it was C.S. Lewis said that really just being found at our post is kind of what's expected of us. And so, in the recovery world, they talk a bit about bankrupt idealists, right? The ones who thought that life was going to go a certain way, and they ended up their scorecard read 0, and they're totally crapped out. And then they have to learn that the only thing I can change is me, essentially. How I relate to other people and how I love other people. And so, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up.
The video in No Wait, No Ads is about a video on the Free Press where there was a First Taste. What a name for an organization. And it became a sex cult, but it started out as some therapeutic practice of collectively stroking women's private organs. And
wait a minute, so you're saying that start wasn't already a sex cult? How is that not a sex cult?
I know. And of course they're trying to tell everyone this is not a sexual thing. And it's like, but what's so strange, part of the strange things about this whole story is when the feds kind of, the FBI is like, we should shut this down. And then the next question was, what law are they breaking? What are we going to actually send them to jail for? And then they're sending FBI investigators out. And some people are like, I was totally abused by these people. And other people are like, well, it was weird and I'm certainly not going to do it anymore, but was it abusive? And so, I mean, human beings, part of your pitch, Sam, is that human diversity is absolutely astounding. And a big element of that diversity is formation. Human beings, the thing that sets human beings apart from every other thing we can see on the planet is that we do things differently at such a rate that, dogs don't come close. Nothing comes close to our diversity in terms of the question, how can a human live? We know how dogs live. We know how lions live. We know how chimps live. Human beings? Oh my goodness. And so that's why we have culture and religion and history, because, and even today, it's amazing. One of the most amazing things I find about the period we live in is we don't know how to feed a human being. Because if you look at conversations among normal people now, should it be vegan? Should it be carnivore? Should it be, we don't even know what to eat. And that's compounded partly because we can seem to eat almost anything. And that's just one element of this massive question that you're pointing to, Sam, is what is a human being? And of course, the biblical answer is an image bearer of God, which, if you look at that fact of our diversity, holds up. But then how should we live?
This is totally a tangent, but the mention of the Serenity Prayer made me think, like, what if we prayed to Algo thusly? Like, feed me that, don't feed me things, but that stuff I can change. Sorry.
I just want to point out that the Serenity Prayer circles back to Marx. When do we accept And when do we work to change?
Mark Parker, not Karl Marx. Just want
Yes.
to be clear on that.
Yes.
And Mark, I loved your pitch too for that reason, because when you deal with regular people and their normal problems every day, especially if you've been with them for 30 years, that is what you deal with all the time. And part of the reason I see some people who are like, they're just hardliners. And then there are other people who are never hardliners. And I won't choose between them. Hard lines are really important. But, you're strumming my pain with your,
They don't always survive contact with people. Yeah.
And I've seen some of the sickest people I know have really strange, hard lines about things.
Yeah.
It's
And it
coming
gets
to mind
weird.
that serves the same function as the beer, right? That hard line is what gets me through, whether or not it's for the best.
That's right. It's the one thing they're not going to compromise on, and they're going to go to the grave holding onto that thing. It's like, yeah, you will.
Yeah.
And the older I get, like the 7 deadly sins, I didn't know you could die of sloth.
Mm.
You certainly can. I see it all the time now.
Yep.
And what we're seeing in the Epstein files, yeah, there's a can you die of gluttony? Absolutely. Can you die of avarice? I mean, it's the video that I might use to make a video that Algo served up to me. Basically, it was a guy saying, after you have everything, what still do you seek, and what will it cost you? And basically, Epstein was a priest, because he was there to hook people up to the thing they're looking for. That was his real value to all of these people.
So to tap into Grim Grizz's original pitch, I feel like one thing that could be very dangerous, Steven Pinker, his new book that I haven't read, but he's, I follow him on Twitter or X or whatever it is. And so I sort of get the gist of it is like, there's a difference between when everyone knows things and when everyone knows that everyone else knows things. And that has a very important role to play in public consciousness and how we model other people's behavior and what that says about our collective society. So now everyone knows that everyone knows at least some amount of what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein. There's probably still things that we don't know, and probably some of what we do know is not exactly true either. So that still needs to be sorted out. But at the very least, there are some very important and powerful people who should be punished. I think that much is clear to everyone, and that much everyone also knows that everyone also knows. And so what happens if they don't? And then I think that will cause a huge demoralization in our sense of what the system is and how it's working, because then it'll make it feel like laws are just for control instead of laws being about justice. And then
our delusion that it was the other way around is terribly important.
Well, I think that it's always probably been some mix of the two. And in totalitarian places, it's more one way, and in just countries, it's more the other way. And that I do think that is something that it isn't always just laws are just for control. There is some sense of justice and some sense of righteousness. And when countries move in that direction, it does make them better and does make people more bought into the system, more cooperative, more willing to do the right thing themselves, probably too, or scared of doing the wrong thing. And I think that we need to move in that direction. And if we don't, then it could be bad, precisely because that balance can move in both directions.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, now here it comes. I've been waiting. I don't care about Jeffrey Epstein. We knew there's evil in the world. We know rich people will do whatever they can get away with. Why do we care so much about this? Versus, we could have more traditional religious benefits if women didn't have to worry in the church that if their husband was unfaithful or abusing them, it would be hidden by the other church members. If we found a way locally to work through our local stuff in congregation, we could have the basis so that all the other stuff we've been talking about wouldn't be as bad a problem. It'd still be a problem.
I would pitch that those two things are related. And that if we see Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators go unpunished, then that sends a message down the various levels of the hierarchy and various scales, that if these sorts of things go unpunished at what could be imagined as maybe the highest scale of this, then it sends a message that probably people will get away with it at lower level scales, such as an individual church or congregation.
Yeah.
Is there a way to? I'm concerned that if punishment is really what's necessary, so that, I mean, that seems to be what you're saying, that there needs to be some justice with this, right, Sam? Is that what you're communicating?
Yes.
Now, is justice met through the legal processes, through the law, which we know the rich can manipulate, or is it met through the mob? And then what are the long-term consequences of either? We could chase we could be the dog that chases a bus and catches up with it, and create our own destruction through that. I'm sorry, just put a bow on it. Is that this is why I guess I'm with Terry. Is I'm looking for a group of friends who are interested in mending the wounds nearest us, regardless whether they wear the med hat or the blue hat. That this is what we do in life. We just, we hold the hand, we give the water, we heal where we're at nearest. And I can't, I'm just chasing justice for something for which I'll stop there. I think I communicated my.
What's more worthwhile than chasing after justice, Mark?
Chasing it in the abstract, or chasing it, or pursuing it in specifics.
One way to pursue it in the abstract is to pursue it in specific cases.
Okay, can you though? Can you do it without creating more injustice? See if you can see. Yes,
Chasing
absolutely.
after
Let's punish the
reintegration.
guilty. Go ahead.
Chasing
What?
after redemption is more valuable than chasing after justice.
It can be, but what if you can't get there?
Reconciliation.
Here's one of my problems: is just war theory, right? There's this whole business about just war theory, and our types in the corner love to talk about these sorts of things. How many orphans am I willing to make to prevent my child from becoming an orphan? I just, chasing after justice. It's just like mercy. Yeah, I mean, there's Micah 6:8, my favorite verse. The Lord's already told you what to do. Be just, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. The things live in tension. Our devotion to God lives in a tension in this world that's only reconcilable through humility, which is that acceptance business again. What can I change? What can't I? And then that comes in. Then introducing into that is the ministry of Jesus. He says, "I come in and I'm going to deliver. I'm going to deliver the captives and heal the sick and raise the dead." And this is
I knew I was going to have to pitch, and I was thinking about a bunch of different ones, and this pursuit of justice is vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. How long are you not going to take it? How many thousands of years are we supposed to wait and still think Jesus is coming back? The lack of
At least 2.
the lack of things being set right, at least on this scale, or at least a scapegoat, because Ghislaine doesn't cut it as a scapegoat for this. By the way, Epstein's not dead. The only reason you guys were allowed to say he didn't kill himself is because that supported the narrative that he was dead.
Elvis, Nero, the 12th Imam.
Tupac.
The list of people who aren't dead is amazing.
And so Mandela. But yeah,
the only scapegoat worth having is being one. If you aren't willing to be a scapegoat, don't talk about scapegoats.
Oh, I'm willing. I'm willing.
And when I look justice versus redemption, justice isn't enough. Justice in the sense of retribution is what I meant. That doesn't get us anywhere. But justice in terms of making things better, stopping it, whatever it is, and making things better, that's different.
These are, I mean, oh gosh. I guess I was talking to someone who was talking about Andrew Wilson, and Andrew Wilson talked about some. I won't even go to Andrew Wilson things. These issues are so. I mean, part of the reason I think Christianity has been so successful is that these issues are so salient in the gospel, and in some ways, Jesus works with a lot of nuance. I mean, you can point to the woman caught in adultery. That's one, but then people are like, that's a textually later. But you can point to the woman who washes Jesus' feet in the house of the Pharisees, and because all of these questions are in there, and even the universalist versus infernalist. I mean, it's so interesting to me how so many of the questions in the corner are many of these questions sort of brought low. And even, I mean, part of the reason why I really encouraged Mark early on when, he's in the corner, he's looking around saying, there's a bunch of conservatives. I'm getting the heck out of here. Why am I going to spend my time with these people? And I encouraged him, no, Mark, don't leave. Don't leave. Because these are tensions in the Christian story and in Christian theology that are in many ways we are unable to resolve. And Grizz's point, on one hand you might say, why hasn't Jesus called an end to the whole show yet? On the other hand, judgment day comes with every casket we put in the ground. And it's one thing, and again, off these conversations go. And I want to continue to recommend Iran as a really interesting test case on so many of these issues. And the more I learn about the story of revolutionary Iran, and it is just, I mean, the book is good book, Revolutionary Iran. It's a good book. It's good history, but all of these issues are just right there because Iran is a democracy, but they have clerics to ensure that the democracy doesn't do anything against the will of God. And then, when Khomeini dies, who succeeds him? And all of this within Shia Islam, which has this really interesting tensions around government leadership. They are in some ways the, anti-government piece of Islam because they're waiting for the 12th Imam. It's crazy, but all of those issues are there.
It's interesting. I wondered if this might come back to Iran. I know, Paul, you've been talking about it a lot lately, and I guess they are maybe the closest thing to a theocracy that we have. and it's not going so well because people don't always cooperate.
That's because the rest of the world won't cooperate. And part of their tenet is they have to spread. Plus, you have the Islamic Revolution. I mean, there's so much sort of Marxism based in this. There's so much, Protestant code in this stuff. It's just mind blowing. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Everett.
No, that's fine. I like what Mark was talking about with a group of friends too. One of the things I had always wanted to do was bring 12-step to my church, and so with a group of guys, I'm going through the book Steps by Ortberg, and man, when you start looking at yourself and your own character defects and your own need for redemption, I guess I just see that, for me, it's really the only way to stay sane, because maybe along with globalism and the 24-hour news cycle, our worries are just so big and diffuse. And oftentimes we can get away from just this idea that, we just need to be a fellowship of friends, work on our own holiness, our own redemption, and love other people, right? And work with other people.
And also hang the people that were hurting the kids. We had that in.
Yeah.
Well,
we don't
that's
have
the
hanging
news. See,
laws.
my problem is always, hang the people. Okay, yeah, hang them, absolutely. And let's deal with some of those fat slobs who are in uniform, who are abusing the law and people in the process, and they can meet Jesus in jail. I have no problem with that. Let's have justice. We can have justice until there's nothing left. I mean, that's part of the Protestant story, is we're going to cleanse the temple. We've been cleansing the temple for 500 years. It ain't clean, from what I can tell. That's why I find Rome a bit alluring at this point. I'm tired of the chaos.
The cleansing will continue until the temple improves. Okay, Mark.
But you can.
Hardly anybody got the money lender.
It'll be clean when we scrape off every brick we've removed from the edifice.
Is that really such a bad thing to attempt to do?
To make peace, to make a desert and call it peace? Is that what we're aspiring to?
No, but cleaning the temple does sound like a good idea.
If you can do it.
Yeah, it doesn't stay clean.
That's true. That's why you got to keep at it.
Well, and who gets to clean it, right? Who decides when it's clean? Like if the swamp's been drained,
in charge of that.
What's that?
Put the people with OCD in charge of that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the hands of a compulsive hand washer? They have to take antibiotics so that they don't get gangrene,
What chaos are you tired of, Mark,
very
in Protestantism? What chaos are you tired of?
You talking to me, Sam? I'm sorry.
I specifically, you, Mark.
Endless opinions without authority.
That's where this goes, isn't it? That's why I loved my conversation with Paul Rene. I mean, it's like, we need authority. And that sort of goes back to Terry's pitch, which I thought was excellent. Because, I mean, I see all of these would-be authoritarians, and the track record of authoritarianism is that it melds with the Epstein thing. Everybody's under the thumb except the guys on the other ends of the thumbs. And that is, so then the idea is, well, we'll just make rules and they'll be strictly enforced. And
enforced by who? And what force do
who?
they have? And how do they have that force? So, Mark, what is this authority allowed to do to someone who doesn't agree with them? You want an authority who's going to be what are they going to and who are they going to it to?
Well,
and how is that just?
No, I'm okay. Well, I mean, I think that these.
In other words, what's the authority going to do to me, Mark?
Yeah.
What's your church going to do to me?
No, that's a real problem, isn't it? Because I know
the answer already, and I don't like it.
But see, it's changed. But see, that's the interesting thing about
we changed it. We took the power away from the Catholic Church. They didn't change it themselves. They didn't voluntarily give it up. It had to be forcibly taken from the Catholic Church. And now the Catholic Church is what it is, such that Mark D. Parker can maybe finally appreciate it for what it is after Protestantism defanged it.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, Sam, you need to be re-educated.
What? Yeah, I don't want to be re-educated. Me and Jordan Peterson are right there on this re-education idea. Be careful what you wish for. If you bring me into that re-education camp, you won't get the outcome you're hoping for. We'll see how this camp turns out with me inside it. We'll see how those inquisitors feel about me in there. Not going to happen.
Oh, resistance is futile.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right, I'm done. I'm trying.
Mark, don't give up because
I'm pouring the tea in the harbor and I'm creating a new country and I don't care what king you are.
And you're gonna build it on stolen land and genocide. Yay, Protestantism in America. The New World wasn't. The New World was never the New World. The New World was there were people here for 15,000 years at least in the New World.
Did I mention the part where I'm working on a video about human evolution?
Oh, and so did and the Europeans were such saints.
But it's interesting, Mark, that you want an authority to end the chaos.
No,
that's what you said. You literally said that. That was almost as
I was trying to answer a specific question. Okay, but let me. There is a problem. How do we avoid the sex cults? Protestantism in America. Hold on, Sam. Put the brakes on for a minute.
The gas is Lord Jesus. Just getting touched.
I know you're very sensitive. Okay.
Sensitive isn't the word I'd use.
Paul, could you drag me one slot to the left and let these two hash it out?
All right, Mark, say your piece.
Something I'm doing for my channel is a deep dive of a study of Christianity in America. God willing, I'll produce something when I'm done, and it'll be interesting. But part of that education is American Christianity. Frankly, doesn't look very Christian because it's extremely willful. It's very self-centered. It's very therapeutic. It's very much about overturning authority and asserting my own will in the world and justifying it with a lot of Christian talk. The Bible was ultimately used. That's because they had to throw off all the other stuff, but they kept the Bible. And then they make the Bible say whatever they want it to say because it's a deep and profound work of literature. And so you can pretty much, if you focus on certain things and ignore other things, you can make it say anything you want. So if you discard the whole counsel of Scripture, you can justify anything. You can be Joseph Smith and have God knows how many wives, or you can be you can start an Oneida cult. You can be a Shaker. You have a reverse sex cult. We're all going to be abstinent. Well, you know what? Shakers are a really interesting study. They aren't all about chairs and buildings. Okay. You can, and the story of American Christianity follows, from the First Great Awakening and Jonathan Edwards and, Angry God and all that business. And it ends with Paula White Cain. Thrice married, spiritual counsel to the president, televangelist. It's got the ear of the government itself. She's in the White House, and they're worshiping Jesus at Mar-a-Lago, and they're having revivals in the White House. That's
amazing.
American Christianity, and I'm done with it. Now I'm interested in it as a study about my place. How did we end up here? It's fascinating. It's a kind of interesting anthropological, historical study, but spiritually, it is vacuous as far as I'm concerned, because there's no the submission. What do I submit to? I am submitting. This is the Micah 6:8 formulation. There's justice, there's kindness, but it ends with humility.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Hey,
No,
Sam
no
wanted an
apologies.
answer. I was trying to give an answer.
Right. And Nate is a little skeptical that you've answered the point. But I think if you're going to talk about Christianity in America, you should probably include Latin America. And
Well,
Cortez.
that's a whole.
And
that's
then you'd
another
also have
aspect
to
of it.
include how about Christianity in Europe. And so anyway, go ahead, Terry.
Lost it. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, Mark, I originally thought I heard you say all the forms of Christianity are wrong, including Catholicism. But at least they're the first one. So if we all agree to be wrong together, that would be at least unifying. That's what I thought I heard you saying.
No, you're right.
Rather than that Catholics are more right and
Correct.
therefore should have that authority.
Correct. I think it might be useful, at least for me, to be wrong with under the apostolic lineage that they hold and maintain.
And so can you just say something about why that? Why is that?
They're the original. Well, the oldest game in town. Why not? Yes, they've changed a lot, and they've been this and that and the other thing, and they've done all kinds of horrible stuff. But why not? I mean, I'm not saying it's the answer for everybody. I'm just saying for me to shut down the voices in my head. There's all these opinions. It's like I'm perfectly. There's so much of this crap. I'm ready to just that's the magisterium's problem. I don't. You guys have got the theology training and all that stuff. You handle it. You think. Human life begins at conception. All right, fine. I can look at it and scientifically there's arguments against it and saying that, but if that's, I perfectly just to hand that off, because one, I'm not gonna get anybody pregnant at my age, and I'm not gonna be pregnant.
Here, Mark.
That's not my problem. It's not my problem. I can
Anything
perfectly
you
happy to
want to
delegate
tell
it.
us, Mark?
Now I would be, I have lots of issues and problems. So this is going to be a multi-year. I'm probably going to do a kind of Constantinian conversion, and I'm going to push this thing off right up to the end and do,
It's a Constantinian baptism, not a anyway. But speaking of Constantine, Hank and I recorded an episode this morning, coming to a YouTube near you, likely Monday morning. And it's basically, in the early church, there was no authority that could solve these disputes. And that there was a greater diversity of opinion in Christianity in the first couple hundred years than even in Mark D. Parker's wildest imaginations of the deviancy of American Christianity over the last couple hundred. Everything you can imagine and way more, including lots of sex cults, were in the early Christian period.
Yep.
You can tell from those letters in Revelation, right?
Right. There is a sex cult mentioned in the letters of Revelation. Negatively, it should be pointed out. But what did it take for Christianity to unify? Constantine tried to make a space for Christianity to unify through peaceful disagreement, and dialogue. That was what his project was. He did not force beliefs on anyone. He was actually pretty peaceful, but it didn't work. And the next couple decades, his sons and nephews and then their successors tried, didn't work. What it took was an emperor who was powerful enough to side with one side of the Christian Civil War and beat, through military submission, everybody into agreement. That's exactly what happened. With force that you couldn't even imagine or stomach, Mark D. Parker. That was the creation of the Catholic Church.
Oh, the creation of Catholic Church.
But can I throw something out there?
Sure, absolutely. Let's get us out of here, Grizz.
There's nothing to me more American with regards to Christianity than shopping for your denomination.
That's true.
And from what I've read, there was something about seek first the kingdom, and also this thing about the kingdom is within you. And just that's some thoughts.
Well, that's back to my idea of I'm looking for friends who want to do the work of God. It's hard to find because there just aren't very many.
Well,
Everybody wants to do what they want to do,
Yeah.
and that's great. But I would really like to find a handful of people who are willing to, like, okay, let's go to this place where there's shut-ins and little old people or homeless, or find a place to work and we'll work together and do stuff. And I do what I can, but it would be nice to have a fellowship like that. And it's just like it's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find.
There are. I don't know. It's that hard to find. You will find almost every church is going to have something in it that's going to reach out to the poor and the homeless. I mean, I know few churches that don't at least have that aspiration and a little bit of ability to do it. A mega church, actually, in a mega church would have multiple programs of doing that kind of thing. And, if you watch my conversation with Gavin, which is still in No Wait, No Ads, so it'll come out, pretty soon. That's one of the things that impressed him. He's like, I can help these people over here and these people. It's consumerist Christianity and choice. So, but I want to have some closing thoughts, and then we will, and thank all of you for agreeing to be on the stream. And, I know, Mark, sometimes I feel badly because when I listen to you now, I hear inundation and resignation, and please, can I just find some rest for my soul, because I'm just bombarded by all of this conflicting stuff and I can't sort it out. And I feel the same way. And I really am excited, whether it's Rome or whatever. I'm really excited for you to get back into a church, and because you can't have community with people in general. You can only have community with a few friends. And so I think you're doing the right thing, looking for a good thing. So I just want to encourage you and say, how much I respect you. I really do, Mark. And there's another Living Stones workday coming up March 14, I think. So if you want to come up to Sacramento again, do some estuarying and some more cleaning up around Living Stones. I'm thinking maybe a Living Stones conference in October, because I can't do it in September.
Has Living Stones decided to live?
We had our congregational meeting a few weeks ago, and there's just no quit in this group. It's like, we don't want to quit.
I'll stick with you if you're not going to quit. But if you're going to quit, I'm going to spend my money elsewhere.
They're not quitting. They have no chance of quitting. Whether the pastor, what'll happen to the pastor, we'll have to see. But they love it, and they're not going to give in. So it's no die in this little church. But so yeah, probably March 14, an estuary work weekend again, where we'll have estuary Friday night, work on Saturday, and then estuary Sunday morning, and maybe a Living Stones conference in October. Who will the speakers be? It'll be a small conference because we can't fit that many people, but. Anyway, maybe I'll have to. Maybe
you could go mega church, Paul. We could set up screens in those other rooms, and we could have overflow.
Oh, anyway, so I was so excited for this group, and I was not disappointed. Everett, once you came on screen, I thought, oh, I met you.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that you came out of the lurk, at least on the channel. And Terry, I love Terry. Terry is wonderful, and Sam, of course, is part of the secret cabal, and which got smaller. Mark D. Parker is, as Freddie would say, my brother from another mother in so many ways. Look at us, we even look the same, bald guys, white beard, pointy ears. So
Dutch and Irish, what are we gonna do?
Dutch and Irish. What are we going to do? And of course, Grim Grizz, who has a very special place in my heart, because there is no one else in my life that is like Grim Grizz. And I pray for you, Grizz, and I pray that God gives you the desires of your heart, the better desires of your heart. I'll say it that way. So thank you all for coming on. Closing comments, and then I will drop the link. You can go in any order you want.
All right. Well, what a treat to be here. Thanks, everybody. At times I had a bit of a hard time just kind of following or understanding the conversation, but it was nice when people clarify and then I kind of get back into it. Yeah, I think about Mark too, and just something Pajot talks about, right? That somewhere the story went wrong, and we're trying to figure out where it went wrong and kind of get back on track. And I just really wish you well in that, brother.
Thank you.
I am really appreciating getting a chance to know some of these August regulars as well as newbie Everett. And on my topic, I am biding my time. I'll be back.
I'm sorry I talked so much.
You
I wanted to
scrambled
hear
their
more
order.
from Terry and Everett. If I overtalked you guys, I apologize. I don't care about these other two clowns, but I really wanted to hear from the newbies. All due respect, gentlemen.
Hopefully we'll be invited to play again, and then we'll talk more.
Yeah, maybe I'll start up some new live streams and you guys can come on.
I'll fight you for it, Sam. I'm going last.
All right. Well, I appreciate getting to know Terry and Everett better. We're currently at a strong lack of Albertan psychologists. So Everett, thank you very much. You're exactly what we've been missing. But I suppose to synthesize with my disagreements with Mark, we both long for justice, and that's where I think Grim was right. We long for justice, and justice requires an authority, and the balance between that is difficult. So, but justice sometimes does look kind of harsh when the evils that have been committed are very harsh.
And for my closing thoughts, I have 4 cats, and I'd really like to get them a cat tree. That's ko-fi.com/grimgrizz. One of the better desires of my heart.
All right.
One love, Chris.
Cat tree for the kitties. Very good. Jonathan Good, you're going to have to turn on a camera so I can see you. There we go. You can turn it off once you come in, but I gotta see you. I gotta see you. I gotta see your face, because that's the only part of you we really want to see. Robin, you are muted. Are you ready to talk yet, or?
Can you hear me now?
We hear you. Robin
Awesome.
is an OG. You can find, when I'm playing that 24/7 live stream on the other channel, you can find some good talks with Robin.
Tell me it isn't true.
It is true.
Oh boy. I was almost moved to tears a couple of times with this conversation today, because I think that I was reminded about the first time that you guys mentioned domicide, and how that happens at all these different scales, whether you're talking about society or even within the church context. I saw, I wish I could remember whose name it was. He had all this panel of people who were talking about their work experience being so important to their formation. I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but it was so powerful to me, because so much of my character and so much of my sort of my identity that that I long to exercise, to bear fruit from, is connected to being able to do something. And as much as I disagree with almost every effort Mr. Parker suggests he wants to apply himself toward, I would work beside him to the death to have done something for the Lord. So many of us are looking around us in these groups of people who we've curated over generations, who are good people, and we have nothing to do. And it feels like being part of that mouse utopia. Like, oh my God, what are we all here for if we're not going to do something? It's tough. I'm certainly not going to start some nonprofit, but in a weird way, isn't that what the whole Protestant matrix of churches is this array of diverse nonprofits that somehow found a way not to do anything. Anyway,
Churches do a lot, actually. Thank you, Robin. Jonathan.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
there-
probably just going to pop in real briefly here because I am at the lab bench, but I'm just labeling a bunch of tubes today, so I was actually able to catch the live stream. But kind of two things. First, I really resonate a lot actually with Mark Parker as somebody who's come from like conservative Mennonite world to small house church world and is kind of grasping a little bit at the moment in some ways. I think that question of where does authority lie and what do I submit myself to is actually a really huge question, and something that I wrestle a lot with. And also, as somebody who grew up with an Anabaptist background, I love hearing the things in the corner discussing Protestantism versus high church or Catholicism and Orthodoxy. And there's a piece of me that always says, well, yeah, the Anabaptists had a bit of an answer in the Reformation too. And what's interesting to me is that in some ways they are the real winners of the Reformation, in that the things that we come to really take for granted as far as no state church and elements of that nature, they're kind of the pioneers of that. And so like I think there is some hidden answers that Anabaptism still has to offer. It's got lots of problems too, and it's got its own sets of issues, as I can well attest to. But I don't know. I'll just kind of throw those two idea things out. But I really loved the conversation today. It was really good.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. The other Jonathan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think it's great that Mark is considering converting to Catholicism. I think that's a bold move that a lot of lurkers or I don't know, people in the TLC who I almost said CRC, people in the TLC who have not found a church home. Like it's you might as well go where the popularity contest is winning. Although I did want to ask Mark if he wanted to talk about if he thought much about Orthodoxy or how he thinks about that group, but I think you're going to have your work cut out for you in either case. But
I got asked that by Risto privately, and from my perspective, it doesn't solve the authority problem. So I like having. I don't know. I find that very attractive. All these big minds in Rome making decisions on big subjects that I really don't care a great deal about.
Well,
so,
what do you
with a very simple understanding of what is good. Go ahead. Sorry.
What are you anticipating is going to be difficult? Because I think
there's lots of problems.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
I have lots of problems because I'm still a restorationist at heart. But maybe the easiest path towards restoration is to not tear down, but to just go and add. Try to keep building the kingdom of God in the longest, oldest tradition certainly one of the longest, oldest traditions. Theoretically, I could go Antiochian or Coptic or something, but for me, it's a hard process no matter what. But I think going Antiochian or Coptic would be much even harder than going Catholic. And since I have Catholicism in my heritage, my mother was born and raised Roman Catholic by Irish people. So it's in my family lineage, so I can follow that. But I also like Terry's approach too, though. I mean, she's kind of doing the whole mainline thing with a little new agey thing, but also giving herself over to, which is, I think, the one true church in America is the Black church. For his, that's a discussion worth having, and I think so. She's doing it right too. I don't think there's a right or wrong about it, but this is where I'm going. I hope, does that answer your question, Jonathan?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was pretty surprised by that revelation. Maybe I don't know if you were dropping news on this stream or if this is something you've been talking about before, but I didn't realize that you were considering that, and I think it's interesting, and I.
Well, now that I don't have to worry about sex so much at my age,
Yeah,
it makes it a little easier too. I don't, like I could, if I lived long enough, I could imagine my life as a brother. If the wife is gone and nobody else is, I could just imagine like, okay, I could join an order and give them all my money and just, I could imagine that. See, the problem is, if I go intellectually, I think in many ways, I'll stop there. Other people need to talk. Sorry.
All right. Nate, welcome back. Welcome back to the stream.
Yeah. Oh, first of all, hey Mark, thank you for not following the crowd and not choosing orthodoxy. I at least respect that part of that aspect of your choice. And I've been through that journey myself. I'm a former Catholic, although currently I'm an Anglican. But I do think that let's not give the Protestants a bad name. Protestantism was something that needed to happen in the history of the world that isn't that good. But that's not what I got in here to talk about. And I'm glad Sam is still here. What I got in here to talk about is I was really hoping that people would, in the course of the conversation, would dive into why Sam was so right and like what it is that makes him right. The problem he is pointing at is the reason the Christian definition of a person works in ways that any other attempts at understanding a person has been successful is that any other attempt to understand what a person is going to come down to identifying some qualia that makes us human. The only problem with that is that there's no way of avoiding dehumanization if our definition of a human is tied to a qualia, because it makes it very easy to dehumanize those who have less of the qualia or are absent that qualia altogether. So no matter what particular qualia of a human being, you have not got to the essence of a human being. Whereas Christianity says that the human being is made in the image of God, which ties us directly to the ineffable. And it's fundamentally mysterious. So rather than trying to define it, it ties it to the mystery of all. It ties being a human being to the mystery of all mysteries. And then the Christianity in particular goes even deeper with that, because it makes humanity like related to that mystery of mysteries quite directly through the person of Christ. So that's why it works when nothing else does. And there's no possibility of any other attempt to define what a human being is in working in the way that Christianity has. So
better than I possibly could have said it myself. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't you think that possibly that Protestantism has given us the transhumanist conundrum we find ourselves in?
Actually, the earliest transhumanists were Russian cosmic theologians in the 1900s, who were some weird mesh of science fiction and Eastern Orthodoxy. So it's actually the Orthodox who are to blame. It's really the Russian Orthodox are the ones who invented transhumanism. Although I'm not entirely joking.
I mean, or you could just say, I mean, honestly, Christology opens the door to transhumanism, period. Yes. The problem with transhumanism is that it tries to divorce that from Christ, which is why it goes off the rails. So it's like it wants to have the transcendent human without the source of transcendent humanity. Yep. So,
all right, we have a new person, a new voice, T. T
Is this
Dot.
thing on? Hello, testing.
It is on. We hear you, T Dot.
Hello, internet.
What say
I
you?
think I'm
T-Dot?
interrupting. So, oh, okay. I'm not interrupting. All right.
No.
All right. Yeah, I'm not used to streams, but hello. Okay, now there's echo, so I'll just try my best to say my words anyway. It's coming back and forth, interrupting my. So
I
hi,
don't
I'm
hear an
T,
echo,
Super
so
Nerd
it
God
sounds
follower.
fine. Keep going.
Mute your YouTube, and you will not have an echo, my friend.
Oh, there we go. I fixed that issue. Okay.
Yep.
Hello. All right. Yeah, I love coming on TLC and Paul Vanderklay, all the people. I'm trying to learn community lessons and stop trying to be a hider. I used to be a hider, so now I'm not hiding. Hello.
Good to meet you, T. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a Super Nerd God follower, so the nerd, but more nerd, and then I'm a God follower, so I follow, Jesus Christ is God. And I don't really care about all the stuff after that. People try to put on a lot of stuff after that, and I'm like, no, I just follow Jesus. The Bible is without error. And I'm interested in psychology. I'm interested in a lot of other things. I make a game called Aelaria, trying to figure out which direction God is putting my life forward now. But whichever direction it'll be forward, not backward, is the main thing. I used to go backward. It was not good. So yeah, I've been trying to learn community, sort of have my own community, but always trying to explore forward. And I was very much, I think some of you already maybe know me, have talked to me at least once, but if you don't know, I'm very interested in Paul Vanderklay is one of the main 5 I listen to on YouTube, Jordan Peterson with the biblical psychology stuff, and then Jonathan Pageau. I've been trying really, really hard the last couple of years, however long it's been, to learn symbolic thinking. I think that's necessary to understand the Bible, and yet I have no idea what. I feel like I don't know what it is. So I'm like, what? I can't even define it. Then how do I learn this? Anyways.
All right. Well, thank you. Did you come onto this stream because there was a point you wanted to make, or did you just want to come out of the lurk?
Oh yeah, something. Let's just say pointedly got my attention, but like I don't want to do things like gossip. So. I guess I'm going to ask what's happening with the Discord servers, because it's a flotilla of Discord servers. Is that right?
Well, it's kind of a flotilla of channels, but there are also plenty of Discord servers in the water too. And there's Bridges of Meaning Discord server. I just refreshed the link yesterday, so you can find that on my notes. But Grizz has a Discord server. I think does Grail Country has its own Discord server, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot.
It does, but I'm never there.
Yeah,
very rarely.
There's a lot of Discord servers.
If I'm tagged, I will respond, but I'm not present much.
Nate's Discord server actually has a lot of the first generation Discord people that have actually left the main Discord server, and it's high quality stuff.
Sherry's there a lot. You can, if you want to talk to Sherry, you'll find her on my Discord.
Yeah. Anyways, I just love talking to people. I actually didn't used to love talking to people, but I think God is changing me to where this is the new kind of person I am. The Bible talks about you being a new creation, and I am experiencing that in real time. And I'm like, what? I'm now that? Okay. Now I talk to people. That's a thing now. Okay. So here I am talking to people, and I kind of emphasize in real life interactions, but I don't know. It's a really weird thing. I feel God sometimes, flowing through me and stuff. So I've had mystical experiences and stuff. I really love that the TLC talks about spiritual things, but we also have to talk about it carefully, is what I've found, because I'm always trying to be accurate. And so the Bible is what that means. Accurate is according to truth. The Bible, Jesus Christ, right, is truth. But anyways, am I talking too much?
No, you're fine. I'm just getting a message from Discord I'm getting a message from StreamYard that, it keeps blinking at me. I don't know if that means that there's additional people trying to get in the stream. So if anybody wants to pop out of the stream, someone else will come in. I will shut this down.
I can drop off to open a spot.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
And watch, everybody will drop off and nobody will join because they all got frustrated trying to.
Yeah, I'm going to stay for this moment.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming in, T. We'll see if anybody else actually wants to come on, or if StreamYard was just trying to get me to. No, here we have Here we have the infamous partner in crime of the formerly House of Wu, Megaron. Megaron, what say you, Megaron?
Dude.
Dudes, first off, I came on to say hi, T. Dude, it's awesome seeing you. It's
What's up? I love
not a lot.
seeing Ron, and he's Mega Ron. He's upgraded now for the last time.
Well, yeah, there's a story behind it. And so I do have a quick question for Mark, and this is not a pushback at all. But who would be a good example of Christianity? Who are the good examples? And you know what I mean? I'm not coming at you.
Well, I'll go with an easy one, Francis.
Francis
of
Chan?
Assisi.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, living.
Oh, living.
Francis Chan. I'm like, sorry.
Living.
Okay.
Look for
My
a
bad.
living Christian. Let me get back to you on that, Ron. That requires more judgment than I'm capable of. I mean, the benefit of looking back in history is you have the story. So you can at least look at the story and say, this is a story I like, and I can point to that. If I'm looking at a living person, you're asking me to kind of judge in real time. I can't even do that for myself.
Okay.
Like our esteemed president, I'm not sure if I deserve to go to heaven. So
all dogs go to heaven.
Well, if you're a Lucas, they do. I'm teasing.
Well, all right. That was my question. I was just wondering, anyhow.
I'm not going to nominate a whole person, Ron, but if you read Paul's story about the effort he has put into his bipolar friend sitting on his doorstep, there is no better instance of what Mark is talking about.
That's true. I have said Paul is probably the best example of a pastor that I know.
Yeah. No,
I
got you. I'm not going to disagree with you. So,
in fact, that story is a good reason not to be a Christian, because it's too much. It's asking, oh my God.
All right. So here's my problem I have with trying to say who's a Christian or not. God grades on a curve, a pretty steep one, to be honest with you. He cheats too. So with that, bye.
Oh, and he's leaving right then.
Mic drop.
Ron drops the mic and leaves the room.
He didn't like that Paula White crack I made, I think.
Well, I find it to me. Now I'll get myself in trouble. I mean, almost all presidents up until Donald Trump at least tried to present themselves as a church-going person. And then this guy comes and he's got really no leg to stand on, even though the thing is about Donald Trump, he just talks so much. And if you believe what he says, it just doesn't seem any point to believing what he says. So it's just so interesting how you've got probably someone who makes the less claims of being a Christian than probably any other president that we've seen is this guy right now. And the whole Paula White stuff, I mean, it is just insane what is happening. And I think actually part of the real break of Trump is etiquette, because there was sort of a liturgy, a way to behave in public, a way to posture yourself. And Trump was just like, screw that. I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want. And, other presidents have had affairs while in the White House. They've done all kinds of crazy things behind the scenes. Again, I'm reading Iranian history. The United States government basically, they had Mossadegh, who was, really trying to help Iran be a democratic republic. And the U.S. just kneecapped him with the British. And it's like, And now we get to pay for it. Now we get to pay for it. So it's actions have consequences. They do. Ian, what say you?
I just wanted to follow up with what Ron was bringing up about his question, who is a good Christian? And he put it to you, Mark. But it's a good question, I think, for all people to ask. But the reason he put it to you is because I think you were bringing up issues of authority and obviously you talked about Catholicism. So there's lots of thoughts and opinions which you're familiar with, and you're leaning towards authority to sort of not avoid in a bad way, but just like dispense with the chaos of all of that. But like when it comes to authority, I was thinking of love as the authority within Christianity, and then you get into like, you know, what is love and who am I supposed to love? And Jesus did a parable about this, which is the Good Samaritan, because I think that there was sort of an understanding that you love your God and you love your neighbor. And those were sort of like Jesus wasn't revealing anything to anyone, but his embodiment and incarnation of what those two things meant allowed people to follow him. And the other Bible thing that I wanted to correlate here is when he says to the people, the sheep and the goats at the end, you fed me and clothed me and all of that. They didn't know that they did it, but it was through their interactions with the least of these, the poor, the sick, the orphaned, the widowed, the people that are suffering the injustice of sin, really. Like it's almost disembodied. We characterize it as like, you know, the adversary or the devil, but like sin at large in the world causes these people to suffer injustice. And the thing that God desires is justice. And then the way that he brings it about, I think, is through relationship with those people, like a dignifying type of relationship and love that is impossible to find through a sort of authority. I'm not necessarily saying this about your pursuit of, you know, the Catholic Church and whatever that journey is. I am likewise excited, just like Paul said. But the idea to me is like that authority can only ever and always has come from incarnation and our willingness to submit ourselves to relationship with Christ, who he says he is the undesirable and the mistreated and the orphaned and all of those things. So just trying to say all of that to get that paradox out there of like authority coming through love and relationship in a very real way, in a way that is very different from the type of people that we ascribe authority to in our world. We ascribe it to people at the pinnacle of hierarchies, but Jesus also is at the lowest point, right? And so the highest and the lowest come together in Christ. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Mark, your point about you know, living people, it's really interesting how many people around Jesus become Christians after he dies and ascends. You have, you know, if you read the book of Acts, you've got these Pharisees becoming Christians. And this question of authority is a difficult one, and it gets addressed a lot in the Gospel of Mark. A lot of those issues come up right away. What gives you the authority? And Jesus is like, you know, you want signs, and it's very clear that signs are tricky because you can still a storm, and the miracles don't sort of cement the disciples in. And what I heard Ian saying, and what, you know, it's pretty common here in the TLC is, you know, the relationships are just so integral in that. And even those seeing Jesus questioned his authority to do things like clear the temple. That's just an interesting thing to ponder as we long for authority. I think that's part of the reason we tend to look towards old things for authority, because there is something to the effect of, if it lasts, there must be something to it. If it lasts, then it's a good thing.
It endures a lot. I mean, I'm astonished that the Catholic Church survived the latest sex scandal of the last 2 decades, however long it's been. I mean, it was, and that's one of my own stumbling blocks. It's kept me from making that leap earlier. Because did I really want to be contributing to a church that needs to pay off settlements? I mean,
yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah.
I cringe at continue giving to a little Dutch Reformed church that may shut down. But then contributing to a church that's got to pay off its victims. On the other hand, it's still here, and it continue. But of all the churches that have been caught up in this sort of thing, it seems to have worked the hardest to systematize its corrections. I mean, they interestingly, I mean, I have not seen that with the Southern Baptists. They had a similar monster scandal. I've not seen the same level of work done. We could work into, I mean, at some point maybe we'd have a discussion about the particulars of these things, and it's an interesting study too.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to pitch the Catholic Church as an answer. To me, for me, it's like, I need a home. I need a place. Like I said, I need friends locally, and I can't follow Jesus in Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah.
To me, objectively, Tibetan Buddhism really delivered.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
But I can't follow Jesus there. Yeah. I mean, you can up to a point. You're free, and but you can't. That's not where I'm supposed to be. So I'm still stuck with you people.
Well, if somebody is listening to this and you've listened to, and I'll say it this way, if you've been annoyed at Mark Parker, I want you to go to his channel, and I want you to dig through, and I want you to find his self-rando where he tells his story, because Mark has a way to do this. Not everybody does, where he could sit down just with the camera on and tell his story. And it is such an amazing story and such a powerful story. And when I heard that story, I thought, yeah, Mark, you're in the right place in these parts, because, there's always all this question about what is the TLC and what is this about? And, and where's this going? We're always having this define the relationship conversation in the TLC, but the questions you are struggling with are so common to many of us. Now, we might have different political perspectives and histories and all of that, but we're in a time right now where this desire for authority, where can we find it? Where can we find credible authority? I mean, the irony is that, Paul Rene goes to Orthodoxy, and, you're considering Rome. And we're all struggling with this, but you're exactly right. I mean, people see me and associate me with these screens and boxes, but this for me is obviously only one part of it. The rest of this building and the community that built and maintained this building, that's another big part of it. And you need in real life community. I've said that right from the beginning. You need in real life community, because there's so much to that is finally a real Roman Catholic back in the stream. We've got, Mark is right there at the decision, and it's like, where's a Catholic going to come in and close the deal?
No, continue your thought.
Well, it's so it's, when I think about what the TLC is, it's just this amalgam of unanswerable spaces many of us find ourselves in, and one of the key ones is the religious community space. And so we kind of do this online thing that'll sort of help in that area. We find some friends online, but I don't know that we sense that the hierarchy is personal and in person. And so I appreciate, Mark, that you're not giving up. And I it was painful to hear and watch you go through what you did with the church that you left. And then you're in this period where you're sort of in the wilderness where you don't have a church. And I applaud the courage that you're demonstrating to say, I'm not just going to go on the internet and whinge about how bad churches are. I am going to get up and try again. And I respect that deeply, because what percentage of the population are just whinging on the internet about how bad churches are instead of actually deciding, I'm going to go and try again. And so I applaud that, Mark. I really respect you for it. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, you're talking about, the Shah crowning himself. Was it? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And
insane.
And there's a sense in which, if you're viewing these things as sort of embedded institutions in this layered hierarchy, as I laid out, the authority is very much a top down, as much as it's not as much as it's bottom up. And so you're placed as pastor in charge of your church. I don't know the polity in as much detail as a Catholic, but in our tradition, the bishop appoints the priest to the parish, and he is given the authority to do sacraments in the parish on his behalf. And so it is nothing that the priest does that earns the position. It is gifted. It is literally gifted from above, and you shouldn't really be performing the sacraments, that is to say, the liturgies, on behalf of the church outside of your jurisdiction where you have the privileges to. So if you were to go from one diocese to another, you would need to get permission from that local bishop to have the privileges in that diocese. But it takes it's now I am embodying the power from above. I'm embodying the tradition from above, and the authority. I'm borrowing that authority as the mediator for that community. And then that layers all the way up in the Catholic Church, where the Pope is sort of
he's the pontiff. He's the bridge.
He's the bridge. He's a mediator. Yeah. And so, and it's Christ who is the head of the church.
Right.
So this is not unique to the Catholic Church, but it's a structure which allows those privileges that if you were acting out of line, those privileges can be removed. And it gives this robustness to the system. And again, I think where the Catholic Church is unique in this is it's so darn explicit. I think this sort of structure is everywhere. You don't come to authority. You either take that authority, you're given that authority from below, or you're given it from above. So I think and I'm not here just to shrill for Catholicism, although I am capable of doing that. I think the explicitness of that hierarchical structure is, if you think that's how the world is sort of organized, it's comforting, and you know, there's certain resiliences that a part can break, a diocese can go badly, but there is a structure to come in and reform it. Now, does it always work? We have many explicit examples of papacies which were bad and corrupt. But the Holy Spirit has, in my belief, I think the Holy Spirit has guided us through many of those spots. Obviously, many would disagree. Yeah, all right. I'm going to stop shrilling for Catholicism and just. But the point is really these are. I probably have my view because I grew up in this Catholic setting. Like, these hierarchies are very natural to my thinking. But I also think it's echoing something true in creation. And so I think that's where, and I'm not, so I'm going to stop now, but.
As a Presbyterian, I mean, go ahead, go Mark.
No, real quick, just on the heels of what you're saying, Paul, Alan, is that I guess there's in the back of your mind you may have a question: why didn't you go CRC, or why aren't you considering CRC? I very much did consider it because of my relationship with you and Al Van Donk. I'm at a CRC church every other week these days. So, what stopped me? The synodal system. I mean, you got the most recent kerfuffle over same-sex marriage and everything. And the idea of it's not that you chose one thing or the other. It's that it was a democratic process. And I see that everywhere. Democracy is everywhere in American Christianity. And that's part of the problem that I need to address. And so giving up power is almost, right now, it feels very appealing.
Okay.
And something to support. I don't know if that kind of supports what you're saying, Paul, Alan.
Yeah, and the fact that there isn't democracy doesn't mean there isn't opponent processing. There are many lively debates.
In the Catholic Church? I thought everyone just submitted.
That's what's so interesting about it, is there are these debates, and it's this huge organization. You can pretty much find it's truly a mansion filled with mansions, and you can find a place to park anywhere really in it.
It's true. Yoav, welcome to the stream.
Hi. So
what's on your mind?
On the question of authority, somebody keep stating in the comments, you live in stolen land. And that connects to the question of authority. Because what is the authority of a court if the jurisdiction that the court is referencing is stolen land? And case in point, the Supreme Court of Israel. The Jews always has been saying that the whole purpose of the book of Genesis is to say that land belongs to God, and the God may grant license to the land to whoever the God chooses. The Israeli Supreme Court refuses, among the many, refuses to accept this as a sufficient legal grounds for his authority over the land. So they have to conjure up a new God, a new scripture. The problem is that their God is young and their scripture is terse. And they don't give you the same answers to every question in daily life that, let's say, the Talmud has. If you follow the Talmud and if you want to know how old an egg can you eat on a Saturday, then you've got the answer somewhere. When you invent everything anew, actually you end up relying on your conscience. My conscience is telling me that my God is wishing me to decide this or that decision. And we are at the point in which the public is realizing that the decisions of the court are arbitrary according to the conscience of this or that judge, which is the question of authority all over again. Of course, I cannot give you an answer, but I'm just saying that the question is relevant and pressing.
Indeed, and it's all over the world right now. There's a global struggle with this question of authority.
Yeah.
And no, thank you, Yoav. I really appreciate it. Who was? Oh, it was Dave Busatil. His point was, he wanted to get older and older. So, in a sense, the biblicist, even the Protestant biblicist, in some ways has the same move. And I was, so I, in the process of this book on Iran, then the attention went back to Saudi Arabia and the Wahhabism in Saudi Arabia, and all of these very much connects, Mark, with your, these attempts to get back to the foundations. We're going to go the restorationists. We're always trying to get down to bedrock. But then there are always some in the channel that'll come in and say, well, the kingdom of God, it was within, so therefore, and then you're back to Yoav's point of my conscience says this, and so that's God speaks through my conscience. So this is right to do. And yeah.
And if that's all you've got, then you're down to really power. Who's got the power? Because if it's just a battle between individual consciences.
So once you got the power, then you immediately invoke the God that have given you that power.
Right.
By the way, we are the only nation who, because you'd never steal, you'd never live on stolen land. You rob it, you take it by force. So it's not about stealing. We are the only nation who claims to have stolen the land from Esau, rather than robbed it.
T, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, if I can only remember. Yeah, my memory is terrible these days, but we're talking about authority and power. So I just wanted to make sure that someone said in America, right? This has to do with the definition of America, in my opinion, which is very important right now. Jesus is king in the ultimate sense, and then in the practical sense, we're a republic, a constitutional republic. We can say other things after that, but I wanted to make sure that was said.
All right.
If you're interesting discussion, but if you're on land that say you're a farmer and you're occupying land that you were not born on is new to you, and you have to kill somebody in which to peacefully plant and harvest a crop, what is it if it isn't stolen?
Well, one of the things, Mark, that I'm always really curious about, just politically in this, and I'm not trying to troll you, but it just always surprises me that I look at Canada, and on one hand, Canada more than any other, you go to Canada, you have these land acknowledgements, you have all of this.
Yeah.
And they're also a country that has been almost the most open in terms of immigration. It's almost like we feel really bad about stealing the land, but we're going to bring people from every other continent in the world to share our stolen land with us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you really thought the land was stolen, maybe you should go back. But the problem is all of this, then you sort of invoke this sort of land owning essentialism and this racial essentialism that some people, hardcore racists that I've heard, far more than the people that get labeled as racist in our political discourse, hardcore racists will assert that land has original owners. But that's a really hard thing to press because, well, first of all, then nobody owns the Americas because everybody got here from somewhere. And the truth is everybody got from somewhere else. And it's part of the difficulty is this goes way before writing, and so there are no receipts. So I'm just surprised
it's
when
a
I listen
bit.
to these things.
I think by just saying these things were done on the colonialist project, be it in the Americas or in the Middle East. It's not about this is the justice problem we can't go back and rewrite history. You have to be godly where you find yourself, and be truthful and love your neighbor. I can be honest about the circumstances in which I find myself and say, yeah, I got a real lucky bounce here. I'm the beneficiary of one of the ultimate great acts of theft and injustice perpetrated in human history. If you combine both the Native American genocide and slavery, hey, I'm a winner on that. I scored big time, and I didn't, and I don't have any blood on my hands either. I didn't kill anybody or beat anybody senseless to get this. Now what do I do? Well, I think there's maybe part of what the Canadians are saying is we're going to try to share our unjust bounty with as many people as we reasonably can and hold together as a society and move forward. And that's okay. I mean, we're going to have to figure out ways forward. I'm just...
Can I push back?
Okay, Paul, and then Yoav.
So I appreciate what's the discussion because it's a good one. Land ownership is downstream of institutions, of a legal framework that gives you the right to land. This is an argument. I'm not going to stand by this 100%, but you could argue that the whole idea of ownership is an anachronism when you push it back too far. And so we're taking our legal structures and placing it upon people who were living in different institutions, and then we're saying there's this continuity here. I'm not saying that this solves it, but
there's a history of treaties and there are receipts before even the United States between the Europeans who came in, and there were lots of negotiations along the way and violations of agreements, usually on our side, so-called, as opposed to the Native American sides. I mean, you do a deep dive on it. It's a big, heavy subject. It's not empty. I mean, they had a concept of ownership.
I think there's, but I guess my sense is that ownership lives within institutions, and the question really is, how do you bridge the institutions that to hold up those contracts? Anyway, but I think the Psalms are full of this call for this longing for the just judge. And I'm not saying I'm solving this issue with my bringing in the institutions, but I think there's this deep yearning in the human spirit for someone to solve these difficult issues justly, and maybe it's not something that we resolve. It's something that we yearn for God's goodness and God's justice in the situations. And I think there's, because our humanity is going to be imperfect in these resolutions.
All right, Yoav, and then or T wanted something too, and then I'm going to close the stream.
Okay. My objection. Say that I'm a refugee from Sri Lanka. and my house has been burnt and my family has been killed, and I survive only one of my family in a raft on the shores of Canada, and I seek refuge in Canada. I think by everybody around here's principle, then I am granted refuge, whether the land is stolen or not. It is irrelevant whether one tribe stole the land from another tribe in Canada. As a refugee, I'm granted asylum. Say that I'm a Jewish refugee escaping from Odessa, and just me left, and my house was burnt, and my family was killed, and I arrived by a boat to the shore of New York. Then I'm granted asylum in New York, whether one tribe stole New York from another or not. So the question whether one tribe stole the land from another is just irrelevant to the question whether you accept refugees or not. And I'm going to just repeat my initial statement. The Canadian Supreme Court has no jurisdiction in deciding which tribe stole the land from what other tribe, unless the Supreme Court assumed that his tribe did not steal the land from any other tribe. And then it cannot possibly get to a decision that his tribe stole the land from another tribe.
All right, T.
Well, I don't think the other thing I was going to say was maybe as important as before the stream ends. I just want to say whoever may have wanted to interact with me, talk with me on the TLC, I'm trying to make reconnections, I guess I'll say. So
All right, where can people find you?
Oh, great question. I was just on Bridges of Meaning, which is part of why I'm here at this moment. So if you're on that server or can get on that server, then there's that. And then I do have a YouTube channel. So should I put like a link in there or something?
Sure. If you put it in the chat, I can put it on the screen.
Okay. So put a link from my channel. I'm kind of a paradox when it comes to technology. One second.
My really quick final words is thank you for letting me barge in at the last minute and throw more institution stuff out there. Mark, if you want to have a fun conversation about the hangups, not in an apologetic, but in sort of a dialogical discussion on Catholicism on or offline, be a fun conversation just to have. I don't feel the need to convince anyone of anything. I think God does his work. But I think if that would be useful to you, I think I'd be open to that. I think Neil would be open to that. Speaking for Neil, but I think he would be.
No, I'm sure you guys you can find me on my channel. You know my channell, right?
Yeah.
Mark D. Parker. Just and I got my email there, and I want to arrange. There's going to be a lot of talk. It's going to be a lot of talk. So
did that link work?
You'll be available.
I don't see a what are you watching through? Are you watching through
So I'm on StreamYard right now. I had to close the YouTube, but I went back.
Oh, private chat. Did you put it in the private chat?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No.
Because it says join the chat, and I have to like connect up things I haven't connected yet, so I'm wanting a faster way.
Actually, why don't you give it to me and I can type it in? What's your contact? T.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm trying. I'm kind of bad at technology sometimes, even though my name.
Do you have an email that you want people to reach you at, or do you have a
email? Kind of won't work that well.
Okay,
maybe people just find me.
So just make yourself known on Bridges of Meaning, and you'll get flooded with people.
There's that. So you'll get that for now.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Very good. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you. Jesus loves the internet.
What kind of how about this? I really love this song by Mark S.
You heard your neighbor go on about Jesus. They claim their life is renewed. You're happy for them and wonder about it, but surely that isn't for you. Well, what does it mean and where does as I feed, and what they say, could it be true? Well, open your mind, my friend, you may find that Jesus is calling you too. We hear explanations, we try to be patient, opinions the world doesn't lack. They say he's the way, have faith and be safe. It's almost as simple as that. You've looked for a sign, well this is the time. The answers have come into view. He'll wipe all your tears and cancel your fears. Well, Jesus is calling you to a strong hesitation for great invitation, a feeling we've all felt ourselves. And now we are gathered as life-giving water, it overflows out of the well. Well, he is the man and he has a plan. You're wondering what you should do. I tell you, arise, repent, be baptized, for Jesus is calling you to. Though life won't be perfect, few things will be certain. We follow with all of our hearts. We walk in the light, we can see with our eyes. We understand only in part. We pick up our cross, we don't count our loss. What else is there left to do? The way it is right, his burden is light. Yes, Jesus is calling you to. We all know there's something that's wrong with existence. The nations are warring with blame. But what if I told you a good guy, he loves you, but sin, it has kept us away. There's got to be more, and you can be sure eternity time flies into. But as your days in, you'll still have a friend when Jesus is calling you to. And when your days in, you'll still have a friend when Jesus is calling you to.
Where are you here?
Oh, there I am. Hey.
Where are you? Where?
Got me?
Oh boy. Yeah. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me.
Come on, man.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All along this Jesus journey. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Yeah.
Walk with my mama.
You walk with my mama.
Walk with me.
Walk with me too.
You walk with my mama.
Yeah.
Walk with me.
And walk with me too.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus journey.
I want Jesus.
Want Jesus.
Walk with me.
Walk with me. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. All along this Jesus journey. Hold my hand, Lord. And hold my hand.
Walk with Moses.
You walk with Moses.
Walk with me.
Walk with me.
You walk with Moses. Walk with me.
Walk with me.
While I'm home.
Yeah. life's journey. I want Jesus to walk with me.
Say, walk with me, love. How y'all doing? Walk with me. Walk with me, love. Walk with me. Walk with me. Come on, I want Jesus. I want Jesus to walk with me. To walk with me. Walk with David, a little shepherd boy. Yeah, you made him a great king. I know David shouted for joy. He walked with David, and he's a little shepherd boy. You made him a great king. And David shouted for joy. That's right. Oh, yeah. So walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All along this Jesus journey. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. You gotta walk with me, Lord. Yeah! That was rocking great, brother.
Oh, yeah.